The topic of this video is symbolism in the media and its relationship to predicting future events. The conclusions in this video are completely my own and are based upon my own research and interpretations. I want to make it very clear that this information is provided only as a blind prediction and a thesis. If you're unfamiliar with symbolism in the media, you may find much of my analysis insignificant. I've attempted to explain the material in the most logical fashion. However, you're encouraged to educate yourself on symbolism in the media and how it pertains to predicting future events. Over the past several decades, we've seen media symbolism take a variety of forms: visual, auditory, subliminal, and contextual. There are two overwhelming elements to this symbolism. The first is a political context, which helps to acclimatize the public to a certain viewpoint or situation. For example, in the decade leading up to 9/11, we saw an increased amount of movies and TV shows that deal with airline terrorism and terrorism in general. The second and least understood is the occult symbolism embedded into live-action movies, animations, TV shows, political events, and much more. What you'll find when you start looking into this is that major events are being shown to us long before they're carried out. The scope of this topic alone is far too big for me to cover in any real detail in this video. I would suggest searching 9/11 symbolism on the internet for more background. I'll briefly cover two examples in order to provide you with a context for this video. The first example is, of course, September 11th, 2001. As we know, George Bush Sr. made his speech entitled "Towards a New World Order" on September 11th, 1990. The Pentagon's construction first began on September 11th, 1941. The expiry date on Neo's passport in the movie The Matrix, which came out in the year 1999, says September the 11th, 2001. And the Simpsons episode made clear reference to the date and location in their 1997 episode featuring New York. This short clip shows us the location and the date. The editors of The Simpsons continue to play a huge role in all of this, as you'll see later on in the analysis. The Lone Gunman's pilot episode is another example. The first episode, entitled Pilot, aired on March 4th, 2001. The plot involved a hijacking of a plane, flying the plane into the World Trade Center in New York, and then blaming the attack on another country in order to start a war on terror. Looking around on YouTube and elsewhere on the internet, you'll find countless other examples and references leading up to September 11th, 2001. You'll find symbolism in bills, Windows fonts, card games, and much more. A variety of clocks have also been utilized in order to show the numbers 9 and 11. It is clear that having this information analyzed before September the 11th would result in one being able to predict the date, time, location, and event of 9/11. On top of this, several researchers predicted isolated aspects of the attack before 9/11.
Supposedly, a CNN reporter found Osama bin Laden, took a television camera crew with him, went into Osama bin Laden's hideout, interviewed him and his top leadership, his top lieutenants and colonels and generals in their hideout. This is a CNN reporter with a camera crew. And he came out and told everybody, within 3 weeks, Osama bin Laden is going to attack the United States and Israel. Now, don't you think that's kind of strange, folks? And whatever is going to happen that they're going to blame on Osama bin Laden, don't you even believe it. When in hell are all you people going to wake up?
Point is, if any terrorism comes, it's from this government. And if there was an outside threat like a bin Laden, who was a known CIA asset in the 80s, running the Mujahideen war, and whose family builds all the military bases over in Saudi Arabia right now, and sits on the board of Iridium Satellite, he's the boogeyman they need in this Orwellian phony system.
Okay, so consider this, alright? I predicted 9/11 to the day. How did I do that? Well, I used a little bit of politics and a little bit of Kabbalism, and I mixed the two together. I knew W would be president because W has a significance. And I knew that this would occur on 9/11 because I knew 9/11 had significance. So consider this. On 9/11, which is Tuesday, American Flight 11 crashed into the Twin Towers. Okay? christening these twin obelisks with blood, with 92 passengers. 9 plus 2 equals 11. I'm starting to sound like Tex Mars. George H.W., which H.W. means the Emperor of the Fallen Angels, announced there will be a New World Order for the first time publicly on 9/11. And this is where I came up with the date. I mean, it seemed pretty obvious.
A more recent example of symbolism in the media was seen with the Deepwater Horizon explosion and subsequent oil spill. In the movie Knowing, Nicolas Cage is watching a news story about an oil rig exploding in the Gulf of Mexico. This is the event and location. He immediately looks at his clock as it changes to 12. Noticing the Japan reference, we learn that 12 in Japan is 10 in the Gulf. Placing the 10 o'clock time in the Gulf, it matches almost perfectly, as the Deepwater Horizon was said to have exploded at 9:45 p.m. Referencing the date the movie came out, March 20th, 2009, you can jump forward 13 months to the day, and you'll find the exact date the Deepwater Horizon explosion occurred on. In this short clip, it was possible to predict the date, time, location, and event of the Deepwater Horizon disaster over a year before it happened. So the question is, using these past patterns of symbolism, is it possible to predict a future event? Is there information out there right now that can point us to an as yet unclear situation? If someone started looking at media today, would they pick up on the correct symbolism, or would they only see things according to their own imagination? In order to find and decode a possible meaning, we must get into the minds of the architects behind such events. We can do this by studying their rituals and that of the events in which they're responsible. Once we do this, it's possible to decode the symbolism and arrive at a possible conclusion concerning the next major ritual event.